the world's #1 DJ on DJ Mag for 3 consecutive years, the first female headliner and the first techno act to close Tomorrowland's main stage, an ambassador of techno for newcomers to the genre. Charlotte De Witte has been dominating the techno scene for the past decade, but her journey to the top has been anything but an overnight success story, although there are those who question that, but we'll get to that later. Charlotte's journey began around 2010, at the age of 17, when she started DJing at local clubs in her hometown of Ghent, Belgium. A year later, she won a DJ competition that was organized by the Belgian radio station Studio Brussels, and the prize of that competition included an opportunity to perform at Tomorrowland. Not as a headliner, of course, but still, it's Tomorrowland. Now, if you're an 18-year-old DJ who just landed a spot at one of the world's biggest electronic music festivals, it's safe to assume that you're going to stick around. And sure enough, that is exactly what Charlotte did. Although back in those days, she went by the stage name Raving George. She continued playing sets in multiple countries across Europe, and by 2013, she had started releasing her own music. Under the alias Raving George, she released 3 EPs and the single You're Mine, featuring Oscar and the Wolf, a track that became a major breakthrough for her as a producer. In 2015, she announced her decision to retire the Raving George name and move forward using her real name. She made the announcement in a Facebook post, writing, "I started with the masculine name Raving George because I didn't want people to book me because I am a woman. I wanted to put the emphasis on what mattered most to me, the music." This rebranding was more than just a change of name. It was also a transformation in her musical identity. Her style evolved dramatically, both in her DJ sets and her own productions. As Raving George, she had explored genres like electro house, deep house, and tech house, crafting a lighter, more melodic sound. However, as Charlotte De Witte, she moved away from those styles to fully embrace the dark and aggressive sound of techno. This shift not only reflected her personal growth, but also positioned her within a genre that resonated more deeply with her artistic vision. Around this time, she also introduced KNTXT, a brand that began as a techno-focused event series and a radio show. KNTXT was not just a side project, it was also a platform for her and other like-minded artists to make a connection with techno enthusiasts. This was a defining chapter in Charlotte's journey. She had solidified her identity as an artist, having years of experience as a DJ and producer, and a clear vision for her future. By now, she had collaborated with numerous artists, honed her craft, and embraced an authentic image that revolved entirely around techno. With her rebranding and the birth of KNTXT, she was not only redefining herself, but also carving a distinct space for her sound in the global techno scene. In the same year, she released her debut album under her real name, introducing the world to her signature techno sound. The album had a dark and melancholic theme, with eerie melodies and deep atmospheric sound design. The beats are clean, sharp, and minimal, perfectly complementing the overall vibe. But what really stood out in this EP was the storytelling. For her first techno album, Charlotte could have just focused purely on the beats, creating tracks that would work better in her DJ sets, especially since at this point she could have benefited from more of her own material. But instead, she chose an experimental path and made something that showcased her artistic vision. This decision about her style came up in an interview with Mixmag, where she said, "If you listen to more commercial types of music, it's very obvious what it's meant to do, make you happy and dance. But for me, techno is much more emotional and complex." Over the next few years, she released multiple EPs and continued playing more and more sets, all the while keeping KNTXT up and running on the side. In 2017, she was booked to play at Awakenings Festival by Adam Beyer. And by then, she had produced enough techno tracks to fill up a good portion of her sets with. That major festival appearance was followed by her first main stage performance at Tomorrowland in 2018, which was a fantastic set, and it was the first time I ever watched her perform. Back then, I wasn't even into techno, and that video got recommended to me on YouTube and I watched it and I was totally hooked. It was so different from the typical EDM festival set. Instead of the constant build-ups and drops, it was simplistic, consistent, and kind of moody, but it was also energetic and absolutely hypnotic. And I think sets like that in the late 2010s changed the game in EDM festivals. I feel like this was when techno was officially recognized as a mainstream genre. Festival organizers started seeing the potential of techno and began putting more of it on the big stages. This is also why I called Charlotte an ambassador of techno, because she played a huge role in turning both the audience and the industry's attention towards the genre. But of course, with great success comes great criticism. As Charlotte's name started appearing on more major festival lineups, the gatekeeping in the techno community kicked in hard. A lot of techno purists weren't happy about this sudden shift, and Charlotte became one of the easiest targets for them. One of the most common criticisms was that her sets were too mainstream. The argument was that her sets were festival techno, meaning that they sound kinda watered down and simplified to appeal to a wider audience. In contrast, the underground techno scene prides itself on being more complex and niche. And the funny thing is that, at the same time, there was also criticism from the more commercial side of dance music. Some people who were used to high-energy EDM festival sets found her music too repetitive, expecting big drops and hands in the air moments that never came. It was this weird space where she was seen as too mainstream for the underground, but too underground for the mainstream. And that was followed by a wave of good old misogyny. Some people claimed she was only getting opportunities because she was a beautiful woman, that she was an industry plant with powerful connections, and even brought up her brief teenage modeling background to discredit her as an artist. But again, she was no stranger to these types of comments. This was exactly why she was working under a masculine name for years. But the very fact that she had dropped that name by this point was evidence enough that she was going to stand her ground in spite of such shallow arguments. And just to give you a little perspective of how much of an impact her persistence had, when I watched her sets for the first time, which was actually what got me into techno, I just assumed that that is how diverse the techno scene is. And I was very impressed that there's a genre that is rising to the mainstream popularity, and there's this healthy diversity already embedded into the culture, and nobody's even making a big deal out of it. Now, looking back, I was naive to assume that the scene was already that inclusive, but Charlotte's persistence had undeniably helped reshape the perceived image of an entire art form. Another criticism she faced for a while was the claim that she doesn't produce her own music and instead uses a ghost producer. Some even went so far as to assert that her ghost producer was Dave Robertson, also known as Reset Robot. This rumor likely started when they collaborated on one of Charlotte's EPs, where Dave was credited as a co-producer, mixing engineer, and co-composer alongside Charlotte herself. One thing that caused this whole controversy to escalate, in my opinion, was a studio session video on Beatport's YouTube channel, where Charlotte explains about her EP Voices of the Ancient, and she briefly takes us through the production process of 2 tracks on the EP and also shows us the project files. This video received a bunch of negative comments, most of them doubling down on the ghost producer theory. And to be fair, I can't really blame them. This particular video is so poorly done, I don't even know why Beatport even released it. It's under 10 minutes long, and when you watch it, the session actually ends around halfway through, and then the video repeats. I don't know who decided that a 5-minute video can make a decent studio session, but obviously it can't. The video seems to be made as part of a last-minute promo for the EP. It's very rushed, she seems kinda awkward for the most part, and we don't even get a good view of her projects. On the other hand, a poorly made studio session video isn't solid proof of whether an artist is using a ghost producer. In most cases, the best way to tell is by noticing inconsistencies in an artist's musical style over time, because sustaining an entire career solely through ghost production is nearly impossible. And in Charlotte's case, her style has remained consistently recognizable over the years. Despite all criticism, Charlotte kept moving forward. By this point, she was one of the most in-demand techno DJs, performing at major festivals, touring relentlessly, and steadily releasing music. While discussions about her credibility never really faded, she let her work speak for itself. In 2019, she officially launched KNTXT as a record label, creating a platform for herself and other artists who had the same vision of raw, powerful techno. And since then, KNTXT has continued to grow, presenting its own stages at major festivals while supporting a new wave of techno artists. KNTXT isn't just a label, it's a brand with a strong identity. From the start, Charlotte shaped it with a modern yet underground aesthetic. The branding is minimal, with a dark and cool energy that reflects the music. And these unique stylings show up in their merch, their art covers, and the visuals in their live shows. This strong branding has helped KNTXT stand out, making it one of the most recognizable labels in the scene today. And with Charlotte at the forefront, her influence has reached beyond the underground and into places techno rarely goes. In recent years, she's been at the center of some of the most defining moments in modern techno. Her collaboration with Ferrari and Formula One was definitely one of them. Bringing underground techno into the world of high-performance motorsports was something no DJ had done before, and it perfectly aligned with her sound. Fast, intense, and built for adrenaline. Only a month before that, she had a back-to-back set with the great Carl Cox, a moment that felt like a passing of the torch. Carl Cox is a legend, one of the most respected figures in techno, and seeing him share the decks with Charlotte showed just how much she's earned her place at the top. Their set was a fusion of old school and new school energy, bridging generations of techno, a moment that proved Charlotte had reached a level where she wasn't just playing alongside the greats, she was one of them. Her collaborations with Italian producer and sound designer Enrico Sangiuliano have also been a major part of her journey. Their studio work together has produced some very impactful releases, and when they perform as a duo, it's clear that they bring out the best in each other. Their music bridges classic melodic elements with the harder and sharper sounds that define Charlotte's style. But perhaps her biggest milestone came at Tomorrowland, when she became the first female DJ and the first techno act to close the festival's main stage. Tomorrowland is one of the biggest electronic music festivals in the world, a place historically dominated by big room commercial acts. For a techno DJ to take the final slot was groundbreaking. It wasn't just a win for her, it was a moment that proved how far techno had come. And her impact hasn't stopped there. In 2024, she launched a new brand, Époque, dedicated to reviving Belgium's legendary discotheque culture. Every step Charlotte has taken in her career has left a lasting mark on the world of techno. It takes immense passion and drive as an artist to create a brand that resonates with both underground and massive festival crowds, to truly respect and cherish a subculture while bringing it to a global audience, to love a genre so deeply that you dedicate yourself to preserving its essence, amplifying its reach, and sharing its energy with as many people as possible. Never just playing the music, but living and breathing it with every beat. And that is what Charlotte De Witte has brought us. Once shying behind a masculine name, unsure of where she fits in the music industry, playing a style of music that barely had a place in the mainstream. And now, crowned by many as the queen of techno, she's one of the most recognized artists in electronic music. A place that was definitely earned by years of non-stop effort and unwavering dedication.